In the last stream, we were working on building yet more fission reactors from nuclear-craft to allow us to do two things. The first thing over here is that we wanted to get a power-efficient reactor that runs continuously to give us a large source of power to get some of those super hungry nuclear-craft machines running at a reasonable speed. And we now have that. We've got this LECF-251 fuel that is made from the excess californium that we have, producing 239,000 redstone flux per tick. And as you can see here, this is fully backed up on power, and the battery is also fully backed up on 289 million redstone flux, which is good. Then over here, we built two more reactors to automate the production of plutonium-238. And that is because our goal right now is to try and complete this end kind of cluster of challenge quests. For it, we need to hand in a lot of research for the portal coolant, portal frame, and locator probe quests, and we also have to craft a bunch of items. The reason for the plutonium is this quest down here requires 1,000 quantum probes. They require plutonium RTG, which requires plutonium-238, so we need 1,000 plutonium-238. Currently, we have 616, but I'm fairly hopeful that over the next hour or so, we should get enough plutonium-238 to get up to that 1,000 number and make the 1,000 quantum probes. This is working quite well. We have like approximately the same amount of fuel coming in as is being used. You'll see it kind of keeps going. There's not much downtime there, which is good. We do need to get a lot more research. Currently, we have enough logistics, because looking at the end here, these three quests combined are just a big research dump. We need 192 X64 logistics, which we have. That's all good to go. Nothing to worry about. We then also need 192 X mechanics. Right now we've got 116, which is not enough, but if we wait, we're also not going to have enough. From my calculations, I think it's going to take like maybe 8 hours at this current rate to get up to 192, so we might have to work on speeding that up, or we definitely will have to work on speeding that up. The same is true for production. Here we need 48 lots of 64X. We've got 31. It's coming in, slowly but surely, but if we're going to get it in time, we're going to have to make things faster. The same is true for the utility. We've got 21X64, and we need 48X64. Again, we've got a lot of production researchers. These ones right here, we've got 12 of them, I think, all running, all working at full speed, but we're going to need to up that if we want to get to 48 within, the next few hours, preferably under 2 hours. Then we've got chemical. Here we don't need quite as much. Here we only need 48 lots of 8X. Currently we have 32 lots of 8X. We do still need more, and again, I think we are going to have to speed things up with this as well if we want to get to 48 within the next 2 hours. And then finally there is quantum, which we actually have enough of. We've got 124 quantum, and we only need 96. And in fact, we can go ahead and take all the quantum and just hand that in. Boom, boom, and not that. Boom. Nice. So quantum is done, surprisingly. I'm not going to hand in the logistics just yet. Right now, the quantum research is not really being made. Like, we have all of our stuff over here turned off, so we're not wasting any more resources making unnecessary quantum research. Whereas if I was to take the logistics out right now, it would the whole base would kick into gear to start making more logistics research, which is not what we want. I don't want any more iron or redstone being sent around to making logistics. I want to focus on the research that we need to make faster. And so we can kind of do a little bit of calculating here as to how long it's going to take us at our current speed to get what we need for these 4 tiers of research. And then from there, we can kind of figure out how much we need to scale things up in terms of, how much we need to scale things up to actually get all of the research we do need before the end of the episode. So right now we've got 116 X64 mechanics, and we need 192, which means that we are missing 76 64X mechanics. 76 multiplied by 64, we need 4,864 mechanics research. Now, using JEI here, we can figure out that currently it takes 20 redstone flux per tick and a total of 2,400 redstone flux to make one mechanics research. And so if we do 24,000 divided by 20, that takes us to 1,200 ticks. That's how many ticks it takes to make one mechanics research. There are 20 ticks per second in Minecraft, and so if we divide 1,200 by 20, we get to 60. That means it's going to take 60 seconds per mechanics research per researcher. Round back here, we have got a couple of researchers working on mechanics. I think it's these ones right here. Let me check. Yes, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 researchers working on that. So we can take that 60 seconds, we can divide that by 8, and that means that currently we are making one mechanics research every 7.5 seconds. And so if we were to take the other number earlier, which is the 4,864 mechanics that we need, and we were to multiply that by 7.5 seconds, that means at our current speed, it is going to take us 36,480 seconds in order to get enough mechanics research. If we divide that by 60, that is 608 minutes. And if we divide that by 60, that's 10.13 hours. That's too many hours, right? We need mechanics research coming in a lot faster than that. So ideally, if we want it to come in under 10 hours, we need to make this like at least 5 times faster, preferably closer to 10 times faster. So there are a few things we can do here. With mechanics, I don't think it's going to be too difficult, simply due to the fact that the power requirement is so low, it only takes 20 redstone flux per tick to make the mechanics research happen. And of course, we're using the energy upgrades right now, which don't make the machine slower, but they do reduce the power usage. So right now, this is using basically 0 redstone flux per tick to make mechanics research, which is great, but that gives us a lot of wiggle room to make these faster. If we put 2 tier 2 speed upgrades in, we can make this machine 4 times faster. With 2 speed upgrades, it does use 4 times as much power. So instead of using 20 RF per tick, it's going to use 80, but it is going to act like 4 machines. And so just by replacing all of these tier 2 energy upgrades with tier 2 speed upgrades, we can multiply our current output by 4, right? Which is going to take us down from 10 hours to 2.5 hours. That's not quite as fast as I'd like. And so what I might also do is maybe add 1 or 2 more mechanics researchers to the end of the line here, just to really make sure that we get all that mechanics research, ideally in under 2 hours. The more efficient way to do it would be to build a lot more researchers, but we currently already have, 8 of these down. Multiplying that by 4 would be 32 researchers, which we could do, but the amount of time it's going to take to run all of that cabling down, I just don't think is worth it, given that we have the energy to actually speed all this up, and the fact that it's only going to be 80 RF per tick per researcher, even if we do increase it from 8 to 10, that's only 800 redstone flux per tick, which is completely fine. So let me quickly replace these tier 2 energy upgrades, and then we need to go and do the same calculation for some of the other tiers of research, because while mechanics is going to be fairly straightforward due to its low power consumption, some of the other ones are not going to be quite as straightforward. Okay, so with that upgrade, it should now take about 160 minutes, so just under 2 hours, to get all of the remaining mechanics research. I've just run the same calculations with production research. Production research is coming in a little bit faster. Between streams, I did add 4 more researchers here, so the production is already coming in a little quicker. But at the current speed, it's still going to take 170 minutes, so almost 3 hours, for us to get all of the production research, all of the blue research that we need. And so what I'm going to do here, these use 100 RF per tick by default. With the energy upgrades, they use substantially less. They use like 25 RF per tick. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out the energy tier 2 upgrades here with speed tier 1 upgrades. That's going to double the power usage from 100 RF to 200 RF per tick. So it's going to be 200 RF for each one of these researchers. But at the same time, it's also going to treat each one of these as 2 researchers. So each one will be twice as fast, and so it'll be essentially like having 24 researchers working on it instead of 12, which should hopefully bring the time required down from 170 minutes to about 85 minutes, which is a lot closer to an hour and a half, which is much more manageable. So let me quickly replace basically all of these with tier 2 speed upgrades, and then we'll take a look at purple research. Okay, so now that the blue production research is done, we've just done the same calculations for the utility research, and at current speed, utility, the purple research, is going to take 7 hours. And so we need to make this approximately 4 times faster. Just like we did with mechanics, if we want to make it 4 times faster, the easiest thing to do is just replace these tier 2 energy upgrades with tier 2 speed upgrades. That's going to make each one of these 4 times faster. We do have 12 of them down, and so it's effectively going to be like having 48 researchers, which again we could do if we wanted to. We could do 48 researchers instead of upgrading them, but again, in terms of saving time and saving on resources and saving me the amount of time it would take to put down all these conduits, putting down the tier 2 speed upgrades is going to make that much quicker. And at that point, it's going to take like an hour 45 as opposed to 7 hours. It is going to use quite a bit of power. It's going to use 2,000 redstone flux per tick per researcher, because right now each one takes 500 by default. And then with the 2 speed upgrades, that's going to quadruple up to 2,000 RF per tick. That should be fine. Basically, I think all we're going to need to do is quickly upgrade this guy and attach an integrated dynamics energy exporter to this. All of the rest of them already have energy exporters available because a few episodes back we did upgrade these with speed upgrades. I since swapped them back because we got all the research we need, but now we need even more research. And so once again, it is going to be required for us to actually get this hooked up. And I think if we try right now to start pulling 24,000 RF per tick to all of these, it's probably not going to end well. We did throw down an energy interface over here previously. This one. I don't know if this is working at all. We set it to a lower priority. I'm hopeful that it is working now. I think each one of these is still limited to 5,000 redstone flux per tick, so I think this can only pull 5,000 RF per energy interface. So what we might need to do is maybe get some either energy interfaces or just energy importers and use those to increase our throughput here. I think if we do this, that might give us like 15,000 RF per tick that we can suck out of here. We'll see how it goes, though. I'll upgrade all of these with tier 2 speed upgrades, and then we'll see if the power holds up. If it doesn't, we can look at adding more energy interfaces. If it does, then we can move on to the final bit of research that needs tweaking, and that is chemical. All right, not too long later, these are all upgraded. I think power is holding. All of these do have power in them, and they are all now working 4 times faster than they were previously. It doesn't look particularly fast, but that's because before it would take 3 minutes per process, and now it takes, just under 1 minute per process, but it's still getting there slowly but surely. And so now it is just the chemical research, and I crunched the numbers on the chemical research, and it turns out that at our current number of researchers, it's only going to take like 64 minutes to get the remaining chemical research, because here we only need 48 8x and we've already got 36 8x. So the problem with chemical research is not one of infrastructure, it's one of raw resources, because if we look over here, we have a problem, and that problem is oil. We've actually started backing up on hydrogen over here. We've got a full tank of 180 buckets of hydrogen, plus the extra 15 buckets in the electrolyzer, but we have managed to finally run out of oil over in our little oil field. Thankfully, it's a very easy fix. All we need to do, F3G, is grab, I guess, our scanner. I don't know if the scanner can scan for oil. Let me check that real quick. Yeah, no, the scanner can't scan for oil. We need to use the seismic reader, which I thought was the case. And then we also need a bucket of oil, which we should still have from the last time we did this. But I'm fairly certain that this chunk right here has oil in it. And so it should just be a case of taking our pre-existing oil pump and just moving it one chunk over to this chunk. So we are somewhere around here. Yeah, this one has got a ton of oil in it. And so real quick, I'm just going to pick this thing up. I'll probably use the oil pump blueprint to very easily place this back down. I think that's the right one. Oh, no, this is a different one. This is a 7x7x7 pump jack. That is not what we have here. This is like a 3x3x3. Thankfully, I don't think it's too difficult to make, actually, because I think it's all one block, right? So if we get our diamond hammer, we should, in fact, just be able, to tear this thing down. I forgot that it's made entirely of the same blocks. We do also need to grab this. Of course, that does change from regular stone back to cobblestone when we break it, but we can just come over to here. We don't have to embed this in the ground. We can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then throw down, of course, a 3x3 bed of the fluid pump components, and then using our diamond wand here, 2 and 3, that is basically good to go. Again, just like last time, it doesn't like it when you use the wand. You have to make sure that you place down the last block manually, so just give one a quick break and replace it. Fantastic. And then if we quickly re-add our fluid interface and our energy exporter, again, doesn't matter where you put this stuff. I'm pretty sure you can put it basically anywhere on the multi-block here, and it should do the job just fine. Let's put you here. Let's put you here. Let's make sure there's a variable card inside of the energy exporter, like that. And then let's make sure that we get that fluid interface down, although it seems like I have not picked that up. That's fine. Let's do something like that and like that. Cool. And that's going to start pumping out more oil for us. I think this is already set to 5,000. It's not, but I'll change that just in case power, for whatever reason, does become a problem there. And so now, back at home, we should see oil production come back online. And as long as we're producing plastic fast enough to keep all 6 of our chemical researchers online, then chemical research isn't going to be a problem, which I think is going to be fine. Let me check here. This is doing good. We're producing the crude oil fast enough now, and eventually the hydrogen will once again become the thing that's a problem. And I think this is fine. I think with this setup, as we saw in the last episode, we were starting to back up on plastic plates. So I think we do have enough plastic being made here to keep all these full, and so it should take just over an hour to get all of the remaining chemical research. So with that taken care of, I think we are now in a place to where within the next 2 hours, we should get all of the research we need to hand in all 3 of these quests. And so now we can kind of shift our focus towards some of the other quests at the end of the quest line here. Some of these are going to be easier than others, and some are going to take more time. So we want to start with the ones that are going to take a while. One thing that could take a while is 1,000 hop graphite ingots. Over here, we do have a system in place to make hop graphite. We've got hop graphite dust here, we've got our squeezer backed up on coke dust, and we do have, I think, a lot of coal coke backing up over here. And by a lot of coal coke, I mean we have 0 coal coke backed up. That is not good news. We are making the coal coke, but I guess we're just using it real quick, which is not ideal. I imagine that's due to the fact that we've massively increased the speed of our furnaces, and between episodes, I did also place a draw upgrade in here. So we now have a lot of steel, like the steel's been chugging away and being made, but it has used a lot of our coal coke, which is maybe less than ideal. How are we doing on steel over here? We are not doing great on steel. Let me quickly also check on mechanics research, because over here, we have sped this up, but we do need to make sure that we're checking like this to make sure that we have enough steel being sent around to actually keep this going. You can see that right now we don't have enough steel being sent around, and so the mechanics research is not going to get made. That should be a pretty easy fix. We've got 20,000 steel here. I am going to go down and set this to extract on the gray line. So if we do this, that should start pulling this backlog of steel that we have and should start using it over here for the production of steel gears. The next question then is whether or not this metal press is fast enough. And this kind of links to a second thing that people have been pointing out. That is that there is a quest here to unlock the advanced conduit filtering, which I think is going to be worth doing. It is going to set us back a tiny little bit on mechanical research, but 16 is kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. So the idea here is that with these conduit filters, which are the limited item filter, this filters items based on their stack size in addition to the features of the advanced item filter. How expensive is this to make? It is an advanced item filter, which is just an item filter with more paper. That seems completely fine. And then from there, we just need 2 redstone comparators, which also really shouldn't be a problem. Let me make a stack of redstone torches here, just so we're not doing even more microcrafting. And then let's make, for now, just 2 of these and 1 of these. The idea with this is that we can use it to limit the number of items that go into an inventory. So here, we don't really need more than 1 steel gear in this machine at any one time. A better example of this is kind of over here. We have got these researchers that are backing up on 4 stacks of lumium, which is crazy. Lumium is another ingot that we need a lot of. This quest in the middle wants us to hand in 1,000 lumium. So we need to start backing up on lumium, and we are backing up on lumium, but I think one way that's going to help us do that whilst also producing all the research we need is by upgrading the insert here with an item limiter filter, and then in here, we want to limit this to kind of like 1 lumium gear, maybe 2 lumium gears at most to make sure we don't, like, we minimize downtime, but I think if I put 2 lumium gears in there, I think that's all we need to do. If I then take everything out, it should put like exactly 2 lumium gears in. We could probably do with another drawer here. I'll put that drawer down. I'm going to put that drawer down here, and we'll say insert on lime. I'm going to change this to extract on lime. Before I do that though, let me lock this, and I'm going to put a storage downgrade in it as well, because I don't want too many lumium gears being made. Again, we want to start buffering, we want to start backing up on lumium. So I'm going to put in the downgrade, I'm going to put in the lumium gears, and then I'm going to set this to be the thing that extracts on yellow, and we're going to change this to extract on lime. We'll change that in just a second. Here, you are not going to connect, and you are going to extract on yellow, always active. So over here, if I take out all of the gears, it puts in exactly 2 and no more. No more are going to go in there until we take 1 out, at which point it will send 1 more. That is perfect, because that means that now we can fill this up with lumium gears, and we could probably even go ahead and just like drop either a hopper or maybe just like a chest. It's going to look awkward, but I think if we were to do something like this and like this and just drop the lumium gears in here, we can start to then send those lumium gears around. And essentially, the idea here is that what we should be able to do with both this setup and with the steel gear setup is make a bunch of item filters advanced item filters that allow us to limit the number of items that go in, and thereby, in doing so, we're going to hopefully not just burn all of our steel or all of our aluminum, backing up giant inventories that don't need to be backed up. Instead, we're going to put in just the right amount to keep them running at maximum speed whilst saving on resources. And so what I think I'll do real quick is go ahead and make a bunch more of those filters to get them down, probably for steel gears and also for the aluminum, and then we'll also look at getting a draw for aluminum. We might not even need this many aluminum gears, to be honest. We might be at a point where we have enough to get all of the research we need, potentially, but we do want to start siphoning aluminum for later in the pack. We also do need to worry about coal coke, though, because I was talking about that hop graphite, and it might be the case that we just need to get even more of these, although, again, I assume that the problem is that we've got stacks of coal coke kind of backing up in all of these blast furnaces making steel, but we do need the steel, so I think I might also just make even more of these redstone furnaces to make even more coal coke, because over here, what I want to be able to do is kind of replace this nuclear craft furnace, because while it is fast, actually, we could probably leave this here, now that I mention it, because I think we are getting uranium in fast enough where we could use it as a fuel source. Yeah, we got 36,000. At the end of the last episode, by the way, I did speed up these machines as well. We started using a lot of thorium, and I think after the last episode, I upgraded that to allow us to start making thorium fast enough to keep up with our reactor usage. But over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an item exporter. We'll put that down on the bottom of the furnace. Like that. We're, of course, going to set that to export just uranium ingots, which we already have in the system. So let's do something like this, and then let's grab a uranium ingot, and let's put that into our portable logic programmer. Boom. Item and uranium ingot. Perfect. We will have that export here. That should keep the hot graphite ingots smelting, and then from there, it's just a case of extracting the nuclear... actually, I've done this incorrectly now that I think about it, because we need to extract from the bottom. We need to insert the uranium to the side. Although, let me check that. Can I... It might be different with this furnace. Normally with a vanilla furnace, it doesn't work this way, but I do wonder if I can extract the hot graphite from the side here. Let me get another drawer, and let's see if we can't extract. Never mind, that totally works. Nice. Okay, so that's going to start filling up on hot graphite ingots, and I think for the most part, we can kind of just leave this going. And slowly but surely that's going to get up to 1,000. It will go over 1,000. If we wanted to, we could throw in a couple of upgrades and downgrades. Like if we lowered the stack size to 64 with a downgrade, we could then look to throw in a diamond upgrade. That would increase the 64x stack size by 16x to 1,024. That might be worth doing. That way we don't just burn all of our coal coke on making an infinite amount of hot graphite. And we effectively cut the size of the drawer in half, down from 2,048 to 1,024. First we need to put in this and then this. Perfect. So that can now hold a 1,024 hot graphite, which is slowly but surely going to come in. And yeah, basically, I'm going to go away. I'm going to hopefully get our coal coke production up and running a bit faster. And I'll also look at making some of those item limiters for the aluminum and potentially for the steel gears. Although I have a feeling the bigger problem facing steel gears is just the speed at which we are making steel gears using this metal press. And so what we might want to do here is something similar to what we've done with iron plates, in that we might want to just teach the integrated dynamics system how to make steel gears using the mega metal press here, which wouldn't be very difficult, and then from there just put down an exporter like this with crafting set to true onto that drawer. I think that's probably the best way to do it. If we do this, we go to recipe, we type in steel, gear, and we put that in. I think with the iron plates, we did change this to a stack, right? We basically taught it how to make a stack of steel gears or a stack of steel plates at a time. I think that's perfect because, again, it just means it's going to send 4 stacks of steel all at once. That could be a problem because there's only 3 stack slots in there. And so you know what? Real quick, let me tweak that recipe. We'll go for a high number, but we just won't go for 64. We'll do something like this. 64 equals 32. And we'll drop that in over here. This is the right one, right? It is indeed. So we'll throw you in like that. And then if we just get another item exporter, we can whack that down onto the steel drawer, and then we can kind of just disconnect the previous metal press. We can kind of take that fully out of commission. We just do something like that. That gets the job done. We'll throw you down on there. We will get at least one steel gear, which we might... Yeah, I thought it was going to be wishful thinking to steal one of those from one of these chests. Do we have a steel gear in here? We do not. That's fine. We can manually make a steel gear the old-fashioned way. I'm not quite sure why that made 64 steel gears. I feel like that is bugged in some way, shape, or form. Let's make sure we turn that off. We don't want that doing that anymore. And then over here, let's try that again just as soon as we clear out a little bit of inventory space. We want to go variable card, item, and preferably one steel gear, which we're then going to place in here. We do, of course, need to do a few things. First of all, we need to get out of this hole that we find ourselves in. And then secondarily, we also need to connect this up to a local piece of the network. If there is anything nearby, there is. I think this will work just fine, even though it's going to be a little bit less than ideal from a visual standpoint. That is going to work. And then if we do this and we set crafting to true, this should get the job done. Should start producing steel gears faster and should hopefully distribute those amongst all of the researchers. Let's go check. Let's go make sure that steel gears are in fact being made over here. They are indeed. Look at that. A stack of steel is sent, and then the steel gears get made, and then they get imported, and everything should be good to go. It's going to take a second for things to kick in, but I think eventually we'll end up in a similar situation to what we have here, where we just always have a stack of iron plates ready to go, which is perfect. Again, before we go too crazy on this, I am going to turn extract off, because before we fill all of these up with gears, which is kind of what we've already done, I do want to get those item limiting filters in here to make sure that we don't waste all of our steel making way too many gears when steel is still kind of a limited resource. And again, looking a bit further forward here, some of the other recipes like the extreme alloy, we need 1,000 of those. Making 1,000 extreme alloy is going to require a lot of steel. If we take a look in here, extreme alloy, if we want 1,000 of these, we need more graphite, but we also need a lot of steel to make that happen because we need a lot of tough alloy. On top of that, we also need to make 2,100 coolers up here. Each cooler obviously requires tough alloy, and so we need a lot of tough alloy. Tough alloy requires steel. I don't want to burn all my steel making steel gears, so I'm going to go and finally make those limiting upgrades. All right, not too long later, we now have the filter upgrades in every one of our mechanical researchers, and so these are all limited to 2 gears. Over here, I did forget to put a storage downgrade in here, and so we did make 2,048 steel gears. I've temporarily turned the auto crafting off on this so that it can come back down, because again, I don't want to waste all my steel on that, but we do have a lot of steel gears now, which is good. Over here, I've done the same for the lumium gears. This is how many lumium gears we had just sitting around in these researchers. I've taken all those out and again limited them all to 2 lumium gears, so that's going to hopefully take care of that going forward. I do want to start banking up on lumium, but it's kind of tricky to do that with the current situation. What we might be able to do, somewhat jankily, but even then, like all these machines down here are kind of all like covered on all sides, which is very awkward indeed. Because the machine that makes the lumium is this one, like above here, but it's covered on every single side. There are no free sides to it, which is not ideal. I think the only way for us to kind of start backing up on lumium would be to temporarily move this machine out of the way and put a storage drawer there instead. If we put a drawer there, because right now this whole setup's not doing anything because we've got so many lumium gears backed up, I'm hopeful that what we can potentially do is take this, put the drawer down here. If we do the same thing that we did before with the hop graphite, that being if we get a storage downgrade and a storage upgrade, specifically a diamond storage upgrade and a flint storage downgrade, that's going to lower the amount of lumium that can go into this drawer here to 1,024, which is perfect. That's the amount of lumium that we want to have for the quest hand-in. We'll let that chug along and make its stuff. Right now, it's got a backlog, so it's doing stuff quite fast, but once we run out of energized glowstone, which we are doing pretty quickly here, then it's going to start going much, much slower, and it's going to take a lot longer to get up to that full 1,000 number, but that's going to keep going, and this is going to keep using the massive backlog of lumium gears that it has to make us more research. Kind of the same deal with the steel gears. Later on, we're going to have to come back, turn this back on for crafting, and turn this back on to get more lumium gears, but for the time being, I think that's all fine. Over here, I did put down 8 more redstone furnaces, taking us to 24 in total, again with the same signalum upgrades, again with the pyrolytic conversion, and with all of the auxiliary reception coils to make them as fast as possible. We're still not backing up on coal coke, but that's kind of to be expected, given that a lot of our coal coke now is being just sent over here and used to make more hot graphite ingots. We are almost halfway there. We need 1,000 hot graphite ingots, and so those are coming in slowly but surely, and I don't think are going to be a problem. So now we've got a couple of other quests to complete. The portal compression quest here is going to be very easy, I think. The capture base looks very easy for us to make. It is a compass, straightforward, with a glass pane, some cobblestone, and a torch. That, very doable. Nice. We then need 1,000 multi-block capture bases. So if we want to get 1,000 multi-block capture bases, that means that we need 8,000 machine casing, which means you make these in sets of 2. So we need to do this recipe 4,000 times, which means we need like 16,000 modularium. Thankfully, that should be fine from a resource standpoint. I did request a lot of modularium earlier when we were making all the speed upgrades. We got 1,300, but we do need like 15,000 more. And apparently 10,000 is the max we can request. So we'll start with 10,000. That's going to start chugging away over here, making more modularium. Hopefully that's not going to take too many days. I will cancel this. Occasionally you've got to cancel a job here just to kind of flush out the system, and then eventually it'll reschedule the task and it'll get the job done. I don't know why, but sometimes it's just a bit iffy like that, the way that integrated dynamics works with its crafting. But that's basically this quest, like, kind of taken care of. Down here, the quantum probe. Again, I think we're still slowly but surely getting there on the plutonium. We're actually there completely on the plutonium, which is fantastic. We do need 1,000 lots of 4 plastic sheets. We need 4,000 plastic plates to craft this. That's going to take a little while, but we are backing up on plastic plates now. As soon as we get to 48 lots of 8x chemical research, we can go ahead and turn off basically everything here and focus all of the plastic production on making plastic plates. That might be one of the things that takes the longest, but we can always kind of try and brute force it with power if needs be. Right here, this seems like a speed issue in that we could put more speed and energy upgrades in here if we gave it more power, but I think that what's happening is we are running out of hydrogen just slowly. Like, it's burning through, so putting more speed and energy upgrades in there wouldn't be useful in the long run. It would only be a short-term fix to burn through the backlog, which I don't think is necessary. So we'll leave that going. We'll see how that works, and we'll come back to it later on down the line. Let's look, I think, at getting the coolers, because everything else is kind of just sitting around for the time being. 100 thermal mediators, I think, isn't going to be a problem. The thermal mediators are copper, invar, device frames, iron, and redstone servos. So 100 of these is just under 2 stacks, which we can definitely craft. We've got 11,000 redstone and 16,000 iron. That is not a problem. We'll drop both of those back in the system. Fantastic. We then need about 200 iron gears. So we'll take... And again, we could do this inside of the Mega Metal Press. That would be more efficient because it's 2-to-1 instead of 4-to-1. But to be fair, I don't think we really need it. I think we can just quickly craft up 4 stacks of iron gears, and that is going to get us over the 200 iron gears required, which is perfect. We then need 100 device frames. That's going to require 100 copper gears. Again, not a problem. We'll craft up 2 stacks of copper gears. We've got 50,000 copper stacked up in our system, so that is also completely fine. And then we need 200 invar, which I think is really going to be the only thing that could get in our way here, but never mind. We've got 400 invar in the system, so let's see if we can't craft 2 stacks of device frames. It is a little bit slow still when trying to craft like a full stack out of the simple storage network. I don't know if that's like an integrated dynamics thing or what, but I think that we have what it takes to make 100 thermal mediators. We do. Nice. And that's going to be that quest complete. Again, we do need to unlock this first before we can get to this quest, but I think that's completely fine. We talked about the extreme alloys earlier. These could probably be requested now, actually. I think the only thing we're missing is graphite. As we saw earlier, if I wanted 1,000 extreme alloys, we're missing 439 graphite. The graphite is being made over here, but we've got a downgrade keeping us at 64, which is fine if we go ahead and get another upgrade. I think the 8x upgrade might do the trick here. 64 times 8 is 512. And so if we throw a gold upgrade into this drawer, that should allow it to hold up to 512 graphite, which should be more than is required to get 1,000 of the extreme ingots. And at that point, it's just a case of requesting it and letting the whole system do its thing. Up here, we need 2,100 coolers. So the good news is, There's good news and bad news. The good news is that the cryothium coolers and the helium coolers, we don't have to unlock them to view the recipe, and I don't think we need to unlock them at all. You can unlock them down here, but the only reason to unlock them would be to use them in a reactor, because we can hand them in for the quest just by having them in our inventory. And so I think for those, we don't have to do the research, but for the Enderium, the recipe here doesn't show until you unlock it, and so I think for that we are going to have to pay for this bit of research, which is a little expensive, but for the most part, completely fine, I think. We need 20 chemical, which we can do, and then we need some of the logistics. We need 20 lots, was it, or 40 lots? 40 lots of 64X. How much logistics research do we have in the system is a good question, because I thought we had some excess, but maybe not. That's fine. Let's take a stack out here. Let's quickly hand that quest in, and then let's try put as much of the logistics back as we can before it starts to fill up again. That's going to keep going, but that's completely fine. And so now we can actually see the recipe for the Enderium cooler, which again is all the way over at the end here. Fairly straightforward, 8 Enderium ingots and an empty cooler. We probably could have guessed that, but again, if we wanted to do this recipe without unlocking it, we'd have had to use like the super slow crafter, and trying to craft 1,000 of these with the super slow crafter would have been a pain in the backside. So this is all good. We now, though, need to make 2,100 coolers, right? And I'm fairly certain we taught our system how to make the coolers. We did. And if we wanted 2,100 of those, like this, we can totally do that. It's going to take a lot of steel. It's going to take a lot of lithium and boron. But if we click craft, the system should get to work crafting all of the ferroboron, all of the tough alloy, all of that stuff that we need. And it should just put the coolers in the system for us. After that, 1,000 Enderium coolers means we need 8,000 Enderium. That is potentially going to be tricky. Enderium is currently our slowest ingot coming in. And one thing that I've not thought about that could really be the pain point for us is platinum. How are we doing on platinum? We're doing okay. We've got 4,500 here, and this is like a 20x multiplier. So we do have a lot of platinum, like 80,000 or something, in potential ingots. So we should be fine, I think. I think what we might want to do, though, is potentially set up a separate system. We have this here that is producing Enderium, but we don't have nearly the Enderium backlog that we do Lumium. And so what I think we'll do is maybe get another magma crucible and another fluid transposer, and probably another induction smelter, because don't forget there's one down here making the lead platinum alloy. So we'll probably get 3 more machines like that, and throw those down elsewhere. We'll probably also want to get another one of the simulation supercomputers, because I have a feeling that we're going to run out of ender pearls real fast if we start just trying to pull from here. We do have quite a few banked up, but if we need 8,000 Enderium, each Enderium ingot requires 250 millibuckets of resin and ender, and 1 ender pearl gets you 250 millibuckets, right? So we need 8,000 ender pearls, which we definitely do not have here. We've got 512 there. 64 multiplied by 8 is 512. So we've got another 512 there, but again, that's only like 1,000. There's maybe just over 1,000 ender pearls here. We need 8 times that, and so I do think another simulation supercomputer is probably going to be useful, and I think I'll probably set a lot of that up here, where we've still got a bit of space. Okay, so slight unforeseen problem here. Our storage system, of course, needs space for all of the stuff we're requesting. You'll see all of these drawers here are filled up completely with tough alloy, which is good. It means we're making tough alloy. But on the downside, it means that we don't have space for the craft to finish. And so what I think I will do here real quick is just make more of these chests, right? We can make yet more of the wood to iron chest upgrades. If we do something like this, we can make quite a few of them. They do not stack, which is very unfortunate, but we can put down more of these chests. We can make sure all of them are upgraded. If we do this and, of course, get a few more of these, we can hopefully then connect those up to the system using the item interfaces and just give our integrated dynamic system even more space to dump all of those items. All right, and again, not too long later, I have kind of reset up the same system that we've seen many times before. We have another supercomputer, super easy to craft. We've got that receiving polymer clay. So we've got an item exporter here sending the polymer clay down. We've got the Enderman data model. I made a fresh one here and put it in because it doesn't matter what tier it's at for the supercomputer. We then have energy being exported to the supercomputer. That's making the pristine matter. The pristine matter is being sent around into these loot fabricators via this item conduit, again, into the top, and then we're extracting the ender pearls out of the bottom. This needs to be set to insert so that this can receive the ender pearls and begin turning it into resonant ender. And then back here we have 2 more item exporters, 1 exporting lead, 1 exporting platinum. I've also gone and made 3 signalum conversion kits, so we can do something like that. And the final piece of the puzzle here is, of course, going to be to grab some of the augments that we made earlier. I made a stack when we were upgrading the pyrolytic conversion redstone furnaces, and so we can just go ahead and fill these up to hopefully make them a fair bit faster. And we do want to make sure that these are set to transfer more than 1,000 redstone flux per tick, because these machines are now using a staggering amount of power, but that should be completely fine. And speaking of power, I have made a few tweaks, and I'll show you those in just a second here. I don't think any of these other machines need more than 1,000. Like, I don't think the supercomputer does either. We could make it faster if needs be, but for the time being, it looks like it's making more than enough ender pearls. And again, this magma crucible is the limiting factor. And in fact, what we could do, now that I mention it, we could swap this out. Let me get a draw, and let's start, actually kind of backing up on Enderium. Before I kind of tweak this system, though, let me talk about the power situation. So over here, initially I was putting a bunch of energy interfaces onto this battery, but I don't think it worked. We even tried setting the sides to output, which you can do by just changing it from here. You can kind of zoom in and then just right-click to change a specific side to input, output, or disabled. But it didn't seem to work. We had the energy interfaces on the bank, but the power wasn't getting sent. We were running into power issues with our researchers. They just weren't getting enough power and weren't working, specifically the ones connected up to the integrated dynamic system, that being these ones here for purple research. Now they're doing fine, though, because all I've done is I crafted up an integrated dynamics battery, which is this guy here. This one is like the second tier of energy battery. So the first one can hold up to 50,000 RF. The second one here is this one that can hold 5 million. There's quite a few, but the ones that we can craft are 50,000, 5 million, and then 500 million, but this one requires an unfamiliar item. Right here, this is one we've got, so we took a HV capacitor and just threw it down, and now it's receiving power from the bank beneath it and exporting that power to the base. We are out of power in the capacitor, which is not ideal. That either means that the reactor up here is offline, or we're just using too much power. The reactor here is online, which means we're just using too much power. So I am going to temporarily lower the power usage of this thing in the hope that that kind of brings us up a little bit. It isn't, which is not ideal. But what I was going to say upstairs, we'll see how it goes. If we come back and there's more power, then it's good. If there's not, we'll have to look at tweaking things. What I was going to say up here is that we could actually replace this magma crucible with a melter from Nuclearcraft, because the melter has the potential to be a lot faster. If we go ahead and get another machine chassis here, we can also go and steal some advanced plating. I'm assuming we're still backing up on that over in here. Yeah, we totally are. Nice. So we can do something like this. And of course, much like all of the other Nuclearcraft machines, this can be outfitted with up to 64 speed and energy upgrades, which is going to allow it, I think, to become a lot faster than the Magma Crucible. I did just make the new Magma Crucible, but I think if the melter is faster, it's going to be worth investing in, because again, we need 8,000 Enderium, and right now the Magma Crucible is somewhat quick, but it's nowhere quick enough. We have to burn through 8,000 Ender Pearls, and right now the fact that it takes a few seconds to do one Ender Pearl means that it's going to take way too long. So if I was to move this out and throw down a melter like this should receive the Ender Pearls, and it should start melting them. The base power usage on this is 6,000 redstone flux per tick. So what we might want to do then is not put this down here. If we pick this up, we could go and... yeah, what we could do is we could free up a bit of inventory space, because we don't need all this in our inventory. We could drop down a drawer here for Ender Pearls, and then we could put an item interface onto that so we can actually access those Ender Pearls. And then if we go and move the melter over to the Giga Bank, we can then utilize the massive amount of power that we should be making to power the melter at full speed, or at least at faster speed, and then we can use a fluid interface to pull the fluid back over to this fluid transposer. I think that's going to work just fine. To do that, though, we need to first get our power situation under control, although it does appear now that we are slowly but surely backing up again on power. I think that's because the buffer in here has once again filled up. So yeah, let me get another storage drawer, our 500th of the series. Then let's do one of these. Let's drop that drawdown right about here. Let's grab an item interface and throw that on top, like so. We can then connect that up with logic cable, and then all we need to do here is kind of get rid of this, and then just put down a fluid exporter, which requires yet another batch of fluid interfaces. That's fine. They're maybe the cheapest of all the interfaces. Let's get a fluid exporter, put that there, and then once we've got a bucket of resin and ender from our new melter, we can hopefully get that up and running. Are you set to insert? I think the answer is no. That's fine. It's very fixable. Let's lock that drawer with the key that we just now put back into the system. Perfect. And so yeah, let's go see about putting the melter over by our battery, and let's see how much we can do with this. So if I put the melter down here, just directly on the battery, like so, we can then use an item exporter to export the ender pearls. And then we want to use a fluid interface, I think, to just connect the resin and ender that's going to be in there to the system. So let's do this and this, and then we'll connect that. And in fact, it's probably going to be easier if I put this on this side, just because we already have cable pretty close on this side. We're just going to connect that up to this pre-existing cable here. Fantastic. Over here, we want to make a new item card for ender pearls, which we're then going to place into the exporter. Not there, into here. That's going to export that. That's going to start doing something, albeit somewhat slowly. And then, let's see. Like, already this is slower than the Magma Crucible and uses more power. So, that has me thinking, I think we can make this much faster, right? Like, this uses 390,000 RF per tick, but is substantially faster than the Magma Crucible. The downside is that it uses 390,000 redstone flux per tick. So, I get the feeling that this probably isn't worth it. It takes 6,000 RF per tick and 400 ticks to do this in the melter. 6,000 times 400 is 2.4 million redstone flux, whereas here, it takes 20,000 RF to do the same task. Obviously, it's slower, but with the hindsight of having now tested this, I do think that, unfortunately, it's going to be better for us to actually just go and, worst case scenario, put down like 4 or 5 upgraded magma crucibles as opposed to trying to use that one melter, just because the power usage there is staggeringly high. Alright, so we've got now 5 magma crucibles, all fully upgraded, all with the signal upgrade kits, all turning ender pearls into resin ender, which is then being processed over here into the storage drawer. We've got 2,048 enderium already, which is fantastic. We only need 8,000, so we're well on our way to getting this taken care of. If we do something like this, we should start to back up even more. Fantastic. I probably shouldn't have put an emerald upgrade kit in there. I probably should have put an iron upgrade kit, because the iron upgrade kit is going to get us like bang on 8,000, whereas this is going to make well over what we need, which is not ideal. We'll take that out and we'll let it go up to 8,000 max. That is perfect. So, I think that's probably going to be where we wrap it up for today. Over here, things are still chugging along. We're at 156 out of 192 on the mechanics. We're at 52 out of 48 on the production. And so we can, in fact, kind of turn off the production research. I don't know if there's really a reason to. I don't think we're going to run out of any of the items. The only thing we run the risk of running out of really is aluminum, and we've got loads of the stuff left. So I think we can probably leave that on, just in case we need more of it. But production is done. Utility is almost there. We're at 35 out of 48. This one's been a bit hit and miss because we had some power issues earlier with the energy exporter, so these have not been running quite as fast as I would have liked, but they're getting there, and they should get there pretty soon. Over here, we're at 44 out of 48 on the chemical research. Again, all of that is coming in quite nicely, and in fact, all of this is pretty well backed up. How much more do we need? We need 4 more 8x, so we need like 32 more chemical research. I'm kind of thinking that I might go ahead and turn off the kind of uses for plastic that are anything but plastic plates at this point. So we don't need more of these. I think we're going to go ahead and turn that to not extract. And then I think I'll also turn the bottom of this off as well. And by the bottom, I mean this guy right here. So this is currently exporting plastic. I think we'll just take that out so that no more plastic goes down into here, because I don't think we need any more rods. I think this is fine. I think we can focus on sending all of our plastic into plastic plates. The idea here is that we need 4,000 plastic plates for the quantum probes. And so next time, what we'll do, we'll come back, we'll hopefully be a little closer to 8,000 Enderium. That's coming in quite nicely. We will hopefully have our coolers. Our system is working slowly but surely on making that. We'll hopefully have the modularium for the multi-block capsules. Again, this is on its way. This induction smelter is still working tirelessly to make all that modularium, but hopefully that should be doable. The lumium we actually have. So over here, I just checked, and we are at 1,000 lumium, which is great. One thing we do need to do is we need to set auto-crafting on this back to true. That's going to keep the mechanics research coming in, because I assume right now that, yeah, we're fully out of steel gears, and so now the mechanics research is going to keep coming in. I'm not really too worried about mechanics research. I think that's going to be fine. We're fully backed up again on logistics, which is great. And so, yeah, next time we'll come back. We will look at getting the helium for the helium coolers. We'll look at getting the cryothium for the cryothium coolers. We already have the thermal mediators. That's fine. We will hopefully have the coolers when we come back. Our system is working away at making those. We'll hand in the 10 billion redstone flux per tick. That's fine. We'll request the 1,000 extreme alloys. As far as the hot graphite goes, I think we're close to halfway there. Yeah, we've got just over halfway there. We've got 634 in total, which is good. And yeah, we'll also set up the production for the circuit boards as well, because that's kind of one of the last things we need to do. But we're getting there, slowly but surely. We've not completed any of these quests today, which is unfortunate, but we've got a lot closer on all of these. The Twitch chat does make a good point in that we should upgrade the storage capacity of the plastic plate drawer here by at least 2x, so it can hold more than the 4,000 that we actually need to hold. But things are looking all right. Things are looking okay. Once we've got plastic, we can kind of turn off the electrolyzer. That's going to give us a lot more power to play with, which I think is going to be necessary, because looking at the helium, I initially was under the impression that the helium was just this helium, that we could take the helium out of here and use it to make the coolers, but it turns out that we need liquid helium, and what we currently have is the gas helium, and to convert the two, we have to take regular helium, which is what we're getting from this collector, and we have to put it through a supercooler. But in doing so, you take 8,000 regular helium and turn it into just 25 millibuckets of liquid helium. And so we're going to need a staggering amount of actual helium, which means we're going to need a bunch of these helium collectors, preferably of the highest tier. We'll set all that up. We'll get the supercooler going to hopefully cool a lot of helium somewhat quickly. Again, we're going to need a lot of power for that. Hopefully, we can be done with the electrolyzer by the time that comes around. And yeah, next time, it should just be a case of handing in all the research, crafting up the coolers, handing in the power, crafting up the remaining ingots, which is just the extreme alloy here, and then crafting up the multi-block capsules, teaching our multi-block capsules, setting up 2 automated engineers workbenches to make the circuit boards here, one for the vacuum tubes and then one for the circuit boards themselves, to get 1,000 of those going. And yeah, then that should be pretty much everything taken care of. But as always, that is a problem for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Feed the Factory there.